Hi guys, and welcome to In Deep with Kayla, me, Kayla Wild. And so today I was actually meant to have my first guest on the show. Me and her are both neurodivergent. My dog will come into shot many a times, I guess, through this. She's struggling with some time blindness today, so that has now been cancelled and rescheduled. So I think it's in a week or 2 weeks I'll be meeting up with her, who is the begins with a P, but it's Kitty Cat Princess. I think you can guess what I mean. And I'm going to be not interviewing her, but my podcast is going to be more like a chin wag, like a real good chat. And I thought it'd be really good that actually the first time me and her actually meet, we just film the conversation. I think there'll be some really good stuff that comes out of that connection and getting that on film. So what I do want to know for this show is things you want to hear, people you want to see. I want some suggestions, please, some recommendations, some fun things, some insightful things, some profound things. I've had such a life, and do you know what? I cringe when I say that, because I'm like so is everyone, Kayla. And I'm like, yeah, I know, but I have, and I just feel like the wealth of experience that I have, along with everything I do now, will be really interesting to share with you guys. And I know so many people want to make a good mark on this world and leave a bit of a legacy. And again, I don't cringe at anyone else doing that, but I cringe at myself doing that, or thinking, my brain, that critical voice will go to me, who do you think you are? I am passionate about it. And I do, when I realise and when I sort of redirect that internal spotlight back to that truth within, I realise how special and important all the messages that I now hold within are, and how that might help someone else. And I know it will help other people, because I help so many other people. I still sponsor women in recovery, so I do like AACA, I've done Al-Anon, Coda, I've tried a bit of SLA, I've tried a bit of Debtors Anonymous, loads of 12-step fellowships I've given a go, and I still sponsor women voluntarily, obviously for free, in the terms of 12-step recovery. And I also study psychology, so level 4 now, whereby I do placement. So it's like counselling in practice. So I go and help other women. And for so long I was panicking, and it still creeps in now, where I panic and think, but I also work in the adult industry. What if someone's judgment says that that's wrong or bad or like unethical? And I think I'm kind of placed on this earth to challenge said judgments. Because if it really, what's the word? If it really isn't bad, and it's just like a formed opinion from a particular social construct or conditioning, then I'm very happy to be like a social rebel and challenge that and critically think around it. And the matter of fact is, just because I do adult industry work, that's not all I am. It's like when I worked in insurance, people didn't talk to me as if I was insurance, and that's all I was. So I'm kind of a woman who wants to say to other women and other people, look, babes, if you want to stick fishnets on and go to church and sing hallelujah, you can. And you absolutely should, you know, that you can be this and that and this and that and this and that and this and that and all the things to coexist within. Because I think I went through so long in life, not realising, like totally unconscious, but like had these fragmented parts of me that I had either disowned, I wasn't aware of, I shamed, I suppressed, I disregarded, I shunned, you know. And then you sort of go through life thinking, why am I so deeply uncomfortable? And then why am I acting out behaviours that don't serve me well, that are destructing myself, you know. I think getting sober now 10 and a half years, clean and sober, and then doing all the therapy sober, just unpeeled layer after layer after layer. And as it done that, I then sort of felt like I was at a new level of evolving each time I got through something sober. Oh God, where was I? This is what's going to happen on here, by the way, because then as I'm trying to talk, this is what happens. As I talk, I have this critical voice in my head, not like audible, but it's like a thought pattern, yeah, that goes round and says, oh, you're so cringe, you're so annoying, you're not speaking as well as you could, all like so many things all at once as I'm trying to have a conversation or I'm trying to talk. And so I think what I want to show is the vulnerability of that, but how I continue in spite of that, and that you don't have to get to success by not having that anymore. That can exist within, but that it doesn't drive you. It doesn't take the steering wheel anymore. That you get to take the steering wheel, but you get to allow it to exist within you, and that you don't need to let it rule. Like fear, so like choosing the love over the fear every time, but recognizing that it still exists, but that's okay. And so then not judging it. I think the most revolutionary thing I have ever done for myself is to not stop judging myself or shaming myself, but because it still goes on with that critical voice. But what I can now do is when it creeps in, I have a chance to intervene on myself and then speak nicely back to myself. So I sort of pat my heart and say, you're doing a really good job, darling. Like, that's my mantra. You're doing a really good job, darling. You're doing a really good job. So it's like, what I say to women I help, right? I'm like, look, all this self-development and this healing stuff is incredible, yeah? But for me, it doesn't mean that then all of a sudden I can look in a mirror and go, yes, I am beautiful. That would be wonderful to have that every day. It's not my experience, because it's blimmin' tricky to be that in this world, with the beauty standards and with everything else and the capitalism and the consumerism, everything that's like infiltrated into media and conversations and society. Yeah, it's really, I think for myself anyway, it's mega hard to get to that. But what I find, I feel and believe has brought me like enlightenment and an accessible way to be nice to myself, is when I look in the mirror and I hear, or I'm aware of, the critical voice that says I'm not beautiful in the mirror, I give compassion to that part. I'm nice to that part. I don't have to choose to believe it, even though it might feel really real and really true. I can be nice to it. And even if it's really too hard to be nice to it, just to not judge it and to not like shite on myself anymore. And when I say, even as I'm speaking this and I'm talking about being kind to self and nice to self and not judging and not shaming, I have, which I know to be, I know for a fact, because I can feel it in every fibre of me, it is my mother's voice in my mind saying, oh, you're just justifying yourself. And it is like a broken freaking record. And still, repeat. The challenge to it, the compassion to it, the redirection of thought. Because when I recognise I'm there, I recognise it's fear. And so, redirects that internal spotlight back to like my heart. There's a thing in person-centered counselling, a concept, Is that concept? I think so. That is called the locus of evaluation. And I think it's very easy to have an external locus of evaluation, meaning you put value on external things, or like you evaluate things, you filter things in your brain via an external source, not your own. I never knew I was allowed to do that until quite recently in my late 30s. Like, wow, like I can actually choose what I want to think, what I want to believe. I think like you grow up, or I say you grow up, when I say that I'm talking about myself or to myself. I think I grew up thinking that like your parents, because they essentially are, they're like your God, aren't they? And I thought everything that they thought was right. I thought, of course, they must want the best for me. You know, I'm their child. And you go through life, again, I'm talking about myself, I went through life very uncomfortable, but because I looked aesthetically okay, I didn't really have the chance to say like, I'm crippled inside, mate. It feels like everyone's got this like handbook for life, and I didn't. I missed out on that. Where is mine? I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how to be. I went to a doctor at like 16 and I said, look, I don't know how to be like naturally happy. I thought you had to like get through life like that. I remember my mum took me to a private doctor when I was young. It was kind of like, look, she just ain't happy, like medicate her and like fix her. But like no one was having sit down conversations with me. What do you need, Kayla? What can I do to help you, Kayla? And even as I say that out loud, the critical voice in my head thinks it's selfish. And of course it's not, because I realised when I birthed my child, I birthed a lioness within me, and I was sure as anything gonna advocate for that kid. And advocating for that kid ended up also advocating for me and my inner kid and all my inner parts, yeah? And so it was like, hold on, like all this crap about putting yourself last, being a selfless woman. I don't want to be less of self. I want to be more of self. I want to be full of myself. And isn't that funny? Like, what's her name? Gabby Bernstein. She says it in her book. Like, why do we teach women to, as if it's a bad thing? Oh, she's so full of herself. Well, I want to be full of me. I don't want to be full of everyone else. I want to figure it out. I want to nurture me, my beliefs. I want to go and explore life and figure out what it is I believe in, what it is I value, because it is very uncomfortable to go through life. It gives me goosebumps to go through life thinking you've got to do things certain ways because you know that's how others expect. And then you wonder why you end up with addiction, why you're drinking, why you're getting on it, why you're this, why you're that, you know? And then all of a sudden, you've hit rock bottom and fell through 50 other trapdoors, because it takes you a while to get there. And you surrender and you white flag and you get rid of the substances and you heal that obsession of the mind and phenomenon of craving, and then you go to work at helping yourself and healing. Because if I didn't, I don't think I could have remained sober. It was like full package deal for me, having to go and heal traumas and look at things and look at patterns. When I was doing inventory and recovery, and obviously that's step 10, I still maintain that, obviously step 4 at first, and then maintain it with step 10, you just get to see patterns, which then you're realizing your automatic thoughts, and you're realizing what behaviors come from those thoughts and how you've been operating, and you're like, hold up a minute, that ain't serving me good anymore, you know. And it's like that quote that says, look, the trauma might not be your fault, but the healing's certainly your responsibility. And it's so true, you know, because then as an adult, I can be like, oh, like an adult that's become awake to a lot of things. It's like, oh my God, right, okay, I'm not going to shame and slander the way I've done things, right? Okay, I can address things that haven't been too great or effective or healthy, make amends for that where necessary, but moving forward, that way of operating ain't serving me or anyone else. And I think what I was trying to say a little while ago, my brain's just remembered, is when I had a kid, I recognised that if I want this kid to hold that love for themselves, because like they're born as this like love bundle, aren't they? Like the world hasn't got into them yet with all the fears and anxieties and everything else. Then I need to be the example of that. Surely everyone gets that you can't just tell a kid what to be or how to be or what to do, really, you know, like you have to be. You know, so it was like, right, okay, so I need to look after myself here. I need to protect and look after myself to show them how to do it. And it was like, mind blown moment. And I've been through family court as well, right? And so much in family court as the mother, as a woman. I don't know about the other side's experience because I'm only a woman and a mother. Not only, but I'm a woman and mother on planet Earth in this lifetime. So my experience was that you're made to feel and believe that any wrongdoing done to you by the other party, oh, my tummy, I'm hungry, doesn't matter in this scenario because it's all about the child's well-being. Well, my argument in court, which I backed up with data, I would happily cite reputable articles that prove my argument, is that of course it matters, because when you harm the mother, you harm the child. I think isn't it proven by science that a baby up until they're like 9 months doesn't even realise that they're separate from the mother. They think they're still one, you know. So it's like there's reputable data to argue the fact that even when a baby is in utero, if there is DV, meaning domestic violence, don't know what I'm allowed to say on YouTube, that has an effect on baby in utero. I'm sure that I read somewhere about it can create developmental issues and stuff. I'll have to find that again. But yeah, it's important, you know, like if the more I've looked after myself, the more I've been able to look after others. And not in a forcible way, but in a really natural, organic, pleasant way. And from all those years ago, going to a doctor and being like, I don't know how to be naturally happy. I am today. And like I've said, the critical voice being like from my mother, I'm just going to have a vape. Yeah, like I said, the critical voice being like my mother's voice in my mind. I'm estranged. So I estranged from my family nearly 3 years ago. And it was all due to the fact that we went on a family holiday, which we'd never done before, including like my sister, who in my opinion is alcoholic and always has been, has suffered with issues of bulimia, alcoholism, the like. My brother puffs, drinks often, and kind of thinks he's quite holier than thou. And then there's this critical mother, there was this violent father, violent mother as well, in fact, growing up. Like, I don't know where, somewhere in life it switched, and going from him ruling the roost, it was then her ruling the roost. And I always wondered as a kid, I always used to think like, did she catch him cheating on her or something, and like the tables have turned or something? I could never work out, because no one ever spoke about the things that mattered. If I said, oh, why did Dad smack you round the face, and why did you fall and take the breakfast chair down with you, and I was feeling like I had to revive you at 7 years old, why did that happen? And they'd be like, for pity's sake, Kayla, oh, it happened once. Like, sorry, what? I could never do that to my child. And there were so many things in my childhood, like seeing strangulation happening and seeing blood vessels pop in a head and a neck, being got out of bed in the middle of the night, driving to the forest to like get away, and seeing certain adult acts happening in front of me with me in the room, and it sounding very primal and very loud, and me at like, what was I don't know, 5, 6, thinking, I don't want to make them feel uncomfortable. Like, sorry, what? How did I have that like level of empathy at such a young age, yet the adults around me didn't convey that? You know? And there's a part of me that, I mean, I want to be able to say it out loud and believe it, but my critical head will say, oh, don't be vain, don't be big-headed. Again, my mother's voice. I think some people are born and feel like they've got something special in them, like some sort of gift. And I'm going to be goddamn brave as anything right now and say I've always felt that. Even with, this is what I mean, this and that. I've got that, but I've also got this horrifically critical pattern and cycle that goes on. And obviously I know where it comes from. So what I was saying, going back to the holiday, obviously they drink, fine, not judging that, because who am I to judge? But at the end of the day, if you're doing that and your pain or your own insecurities or your own traumas leak out onto my child, I'm not going to tolerate that. I cannot tolerate it. And my mum, she's a bit of like a hitter, like she'll, oh, do you know what I mean? But I just don't really like it, and I addressed it on the plane home, basically. Even when I addressed one way, when my father spoke to my son badly, he was disciplining him, bearing in mind it wasn't his job to discipline because I am the mother and I was there. However, in his face, he's only like 2, pointing at him, and I'm like, and I just was like, whoa, you do not do that to my child, especially when you've been drinking and your breath smells of alcohol, because I remember how that was, and it's terrifying, especially when you're a sensitive soul, which I am, and I believe my child is from my experience. So I was like, no. And from that, I got called a stupid little girl, silly little girl, like I usually do when I stand up for myself or for others or whatever injustice. And I was given the silent treatment for like a day. We would be around a table, they'd be asking things about my child, straight not look at me and ask it to like my sister or something, who's only just come back in our lives since I had said child because I brought her back into the family. And you're like, what is going on here? The triangulation within a narcissistic ran family is real. The boy is usually, well, in my experience, the golden child to the mother because he is a boy. And then you're told, oh, your dad wanted another girl and got me pregnant again, and then you came along, and then I get proceeded to be told that I wasn't wanted and things like that, which doesn't give a great internalized message to a child, you know. And when we were on the plane home, God, there's so much to talk about. when we were on the plane home, I said, look, this whole like hitting malarkey like you do, yeah, I don't like it around my child. And I'm not saying, look, change overnight, but I'm saying, could you bring some like mindfulness, some like awareness around it, and maybe just try to intervene on yourself to stop doing it, even if it's just in front of my kid. Oh my God. I was called an abuser by my sister because she knows that will hurt me because of my past and what I've gone through, and she knows what I stand for and what I fight for. So she has to say something that's going to hurt you like that. I think I got called ridiculous, and it's just like just the face of my mother can like crumble me, and all of a sudden, this is when I know I'm sort of around a narcissist, and I know that word gets chucked around these days like anything, like a right buzzword, like it's a trend, yeah. But like when you know that feeling when you're around it, all my IQ feels like it just falls away, and I go into child mode, and I blubber and I waffle and I slur my words, and my heartbeat becomes rapid, and I get sweaty, and everything is like wobbly and shaky and crumbly inside, and yet you're trying to stay up. And that has been my experience so many times through my life when in that family network. And I got back and I said, look, I just need to take some space. And the way that they behaved from me asking for space proved just everything to me. There was harassment, threats, my sister going in on me on social media, just loads that I was like, I just can't do this. I cannot do this anymore. They were telling people I was in a cult. Like, I mean, honestly, I feel embarrassed even saying this out loud. But what I find narcissists do is they do like a smear campaign, don't they? Because then, especially if you're a bit of a whistleblower and a bit of a truth teller, what they do is they get a story out, because then if you ever talk to that person already has an indoctrinated belief put in them by the narc, that you're crazy. Yeah? It's like, I mean, sometimes I sit there and I think, we're in 2025 with all this knowledge, how isn't this clearer to people? But I think unless you've got like real life experience of it, I suppose it's like addiction, then it's really hard to actually understand. So yeah, going back to talking about the things like when she's like, oh, I didn't want you and stuff. I remember I confronted her about that once because she'd put on my Facebook about loving me, and I'm thinking, I don't think you've ever said that to my face, you know? So I deleted the comment. It was an uncomfortable time. I remember this was years ago. And she was ringing me, making me feel bad for deleting the comment. And I spoke to my sponsor in recovery, and I wrote down some bullet points, and I drew even a picture of a tree to tell myself to stay strong, to stand sturdy, be rooted, don't pace around when you speak to her, try to stay rooted. This is the sort of lengths I have to go to just to stay with myself, to not dissociate because of the trauma that and the emotional neglect and unmet needs done by this person to me, you know. And don't get me wrong, I still feel bad when I talk about it. I still feel like I'm betraying, because I think, well, I got put through dance college and that was funded and things financial and stuff, but then I just have to remember, again, redirect the spotlight. It ain't all about the financial. Like, I could have done better probably having my emotional needs met, because then I'd have probably flourished financially at an earlier stage. I've only just started flourishing financially at 37, because it's taken me so long to give myself a permission and to have a belief deep down at my core that I deserve it. Like, that's like mind-blowing. Anyway, so yeah, when I confronted, so what I did, I wrote these like 3 bullet points down, and I took her to a cafe on our lunch break, because I used to work for the family business and insurance, and I thought, if I go to a cafe, it's somewhere public, she can't go off on me, she can't like physically hurt me in that situation, really. And oh my God, she got so flustered. She like went back to my car and she was pulling the door handle as if to go in the car, like she was losing it. And she does this thing where she goes, and she goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Like, to me, what feels like nutty behaviour, yeah? Spiralling. And I'm not saying I'm perfect, I ain't. But sometimes I see my own behaviours like that and I'm like, oh God, I can't wait to fully like get all of those out of me from what I've like adopted from her, you know. Luckily it's rare, but when I feel it, I feel it. Ugh. Ugh. Just like, get off me, get out of me, get out of me. What was I saying? God, I hope this helps someone, because my head's telling me I'm just going off on a tangent, but that is what I think this whole podcast is probably going to be like anyway, so you either like it or you don't, I guess. Right, so when she was trying to get back in the car, I offered like an olive branch and I said, look, what about if we go therapy together? And her response was, you might need therapy, I don't. Okay. And when we got back to the office, her exact words were to me, you know, you could have been put into care. And I'd never heard that one. And I think people would think, did I just go off on one with that? But I didn't. And it hurt and it dropped, right? But I also thought, bless you, you got pregnant at 38. You obviously like didn't want a baby, me. And you were probably resentful. Wasn't how you wanted your life at that point to be. However, that isn't for you to put on me. That was for you. And maybe you felt shame for having that thought or that feeling, right? But again, that shame, if you did feel that, wasn't for me to heal within you. That was for you at that time, way back when, to go to therapy yourself and sort that shit out. Heal that stuff, heal that wound in you. But instead, you haven't just lugged it around, you've been chucking it at me the whole time. And I'm wondering why I'm not coping, why life feels odd and hard and uncomfy to me. Why am I acting out in these ways? Why am I destructing myself? Why am I in addiction? All of this. And I'm not saying that's to blame, but I certainly can see why I wanted to change the way I felt, you know, because I think a child or even an adult child's response to such a message like that is, well, I'm not wanted, I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough, I'm not lovable. And then that lay at the core and it festers, and then we operate from them core beliefs that we've adopted or we've internalized or we've not been able to filter adequately because, again, our emotional needs weren't met from an early age. If Gabor Mate is right that those first 7 years or whatever he says of life are that vital that you're setting up that kid's blueprint, I am trying really my best for my child, because if they're going to run unconsciously 95% of their day as an adult from the blueprint I helped set up from young, then my God, I want to set up the healthiest, most effective blueprint I blimmin' can, which is hard while you're living on planet Earth and in this society, yeah? But in this home and with me, there has to be that nurturing, that autonomy, that safety, that compassion, that true love, and that I see you, you know, and you don't need to be anything but you. You're not an extension of me. I'm not going to mold you into anything. I am here to guide and support, accept, celebrate, you know, and I see the results. My child is like 5 and will say to me, God, Mum, I just love you so much. My heart feels like it could burst into butterflies. And they were saying that at like 3.5. And you're like, wow. And they can say to me, I just need a moment outside with a dinosaur. Okay. Like goosebump moment again, that they can speak that eloquently about what they need and me support that, you know, like, and doing that for them makes me emotional. Does it for this part of me that has needed it too, but I'm not expecting them to give that to me. It's like facilitated by me and my nurturing. I hope this is nice and I hope this is helpful. I don't know where it just went. I didn't know what I was going to say when I sat down. Yeah, I suppose there's some insight to me. And I'll end on this. I never in a million years would have thought, would I? No, I don't think I'd have thought I'd have been doing what I was doing now as an adult industry performer. But I'm not surprised that I am involved in something to do with SX, because I've always had this like belief, this flame within me that believes in its power and in that life force potent energy. I really believe that when you self-pleasure, for instance, if you manifest during that time and when there's the climax, I think that's so healthy and so effective. And I think if we can revolutionize SX as like a whole, without it always having to be dirty, dark, aggressive, degrading, demeaning, then I reckon we could, I really believe it, I might sound cringe, but then I really believe we can make the world better by making that better. It's something that pretty much everyone does, pretty much everyone wants, not everyone, but you know. And yet it's like the most stigmatized. It's the thing lives are created from, and yet it's viewed as so gross and so dark and like it should be kept in secret. Obviously everything age appropriate and adult and consensual and safe, abso-freaking-lutely, right? And again, if that is promoted in and it being portrayed in this like sensual, passionate, effective, healthy way, like I don't know what bad could possibly come from that. And I'll do another podcast on like the questions I get asked about being a mother and stuff, but I just find it really quite odd and gross actually that you're an adult industry performer and yet the first thing people then want to talk about is your offspring. That's just odd that you're connecting that with that, I find. And I think that is an intriguing message to delve into. Like, where has that come from then? Because really it is everywhere. So how about we all just stop hiding and sneaking under rocks and sniggering away at things and talking in secret, and how about we just have some open, frank, blimmin' conversations and hopefully like heal ourselves, then our generations to come, and hopefully then we all just operate a bit more healthy. Like, just feels like common sense to me, and I'm not saying it as good as I'd like to right now, but I'm going to end this here because I think it's probably been a bit too long anyway. But yeah, let me know if you're into these things, if you're into these conversations of me just chatting away. Let me know if it's in any way interesting, helpful, empowering, liberating, or interested enough to stay to the end, because I need to know these things. I need that feedback, but without being mean. So yeah, I'm going to leave that there. Kayla Wild. I don't know the word. Over and out? Don't know what I was going to say. But anyway, that's the end of today. I look forward to doing another for you, and bear with me because I do all my own editing and everything myself, and ain't no pro. So yeah, I will get this up as soon as I can, get a new one to you as soon as I can. Again, bear with me. Solo parent, no co-parent, no family, ain't doing the whole little violin. I'm just stating outright facts here. Full-time work, part-time study, keeping a house together, cooking, cleaning, and all the like. Right, okay, so yeah. It's tricky, but it's worth it, and I love it. Mwah.